The Hunger Games, live from District 1. Chapter 3, Mother. Everyone in District 1 stopped what they were doing and watched the third quarter quell announcement. Sapphire sat in her room, alone, watching the hollow screen. She could hear her brothers Sable and Beryl arguing over something in the background. Glancing outside, she looks at the carnival that came to District 1 from the capital. Although she had never been to the carnival in her own hometown, she had been once before when she visited her friend named Bullet in District 2. Sapphire thought of her cousin Marvel, who had taken her to District 2 for the carnival, but all that was done now. Marvel was dead. She turns her face from the carnival and goes to watch the hollow screen in the living room with her mother. President Snow walked up to the podium, confidence in his face at the announcement of the third quarter quell. Breathing deeply, he looked over at his generals. Then he glanced at Egeria. He smiles to himself and thinks, she would have been a great wife and mother, yet she is so keen on becoming president after I die. He coughs up a little blood from the sores in his mouth. He closes his eyes as he hides his bloody cough behind his handkerchief. Gazing over the crowd, he thought to himself, I will never die. These people are mine. For the third quarter quell announcement, President Snow forced all of the citizens of the capital to hear the announcement at dawn, with the sun just coming over the edge of the world. He begins the announcement. He waves his hand slightly over the citizens of the capital, and the crowd comes to a dead silence. Clearing his throat, he starts to talk. My people, my Panem. Each quarter quell is distinct. Each quarter quell has meaning to all of us, all of those who participate, and all who make the greatest sacrifice to our fragile nation. Let us celebrate this third quarter quell. He glances over at Egeria again as the crowd erupts in applause. He looks back onto the crowd and continues. The third quarter quell shall be spectacular this year. We have never constructed such an arena before. This truly shall be a spectacle for all time, never to be repeated. President Snow opened the envelope that contained the pre-recorded game conditions and smiled as he began to read. So that the peoples of the districts remember that no head of the family supersedes the ruling head of the capital. That no love from a parent could ever overpower the love from the capital. On these, the 75th Hunger Games and third quarter quell, the tributes from each district shall be reaped and escorted by their mothers, or father if no living mother, until only one victor is left. And the crowd began to roar with such ferocity that it shook the entire amphitheater, and dust began to fill the entire tribute walkway. They laughed and shouted, Snow, 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 and President Snow bowed. He started to play with his overcoat. He kept popping the collar of his overcoat over and over until it began to burn. He shook his overcoat until it revealed a newer, black leather coat, blazed with the symbol of the mockingjay on his back. He turns his back to the crowd so that they can see. He says, so that we may honor you and your marriage, my sweet Katniss Everdeen. The crowd awed at his new clothes and began to applaud. Sapphire turned to her mother and said, we have to do it. She looked at her mother, who sat overlooking the city. Her mother looking down the streets for her husband to either fall out of one of the liquor factories or fall out of one of the gambling holes they had in the furrier shops. She looks back at Sapphire and says, do what, dear? Sapphire continued, we have to volunteer. I want to kill those District 12 people for killing our cousin. I hate them. They're ugly and stupid and... But her mother cut her off. Dear, she said with the softest voice. "Stop all of that. Why this we? I have to maintain the graphite machines. I don't have time to be killing unless someone wants to start a war. I don't want to play in any silly games. Let a trainee do it, dear. Come, tell me a story." Sapphire's mother patted her lap and kept her gaze far. Then she looked down at the pink hat that she was sewing, with mesh lace around it and an eloquent feather placed on the side. But for Sapphire, a trainee wasn't enough. She had bloodlust. She had anger. She knew that to win the chance to volunteer, she needed Tesserae, the hardest thing to get in District 1. "I will win, Mother," she said. "We have to do it together." Her mother thought about when she gave birth to Sapphire's brother named Sable. She remembers the slaps from the peacekeeper as the nurse asked, "Name?" "Romulus." Then the peacekeeper slaps her in her face. The nurse asked again, "Name?" "Varro." And the peacekeeper slaps her once again. She knew the rules. She knew that she could not give her son a name prestigious in the capital. But she still looks far down in the streets for her husband, bringing her thoughts back into the living room with her and Sapphire. She turned to Sapphire and said, "If you volunteer, then you take me to hell, and not quietly." Her mother went into the bathroom and looked for her makeup. She wanted to go into the street to find her husband herself. As she made her way outside, she looked at her son with a bit of suspicion. Where are you going at this time in the morning?" Beryl asked his mother before she had a chance to ask the same question. "I'm, his mother said. "I'm going to meet with your father." She looked at his pants and boots strapped up tight, with a black booksack waiting by the door. "And where are you going then, son? You know there is a curfew around this time. We have enough capital tickets from you as it is." She went into his room and looked around, looking for cigarettes or jumpers, or any of the other drugs that he loved to do with his parents' back turned. "I'm looking for any of those girls you like to hide in here," she said, as he looked at her with a crazy eye. He knew his mother was looking for something more than that, but if she found what she had really been looking for, then he would have been in a world of trouble. "Look, Mom, I'm going to meet up with a girl from the capital. I'm going to be late. I hope you are not mad, but I have to go." And with that he grabbed his bag and went out the door before his mother. His mother, half confused and half amazed that her son left in such a manner, gathered her thoughts and left out the door behind him, leaving Sapphire in the house by herself. She wanted to send a message to Savinia and let her know that she was alone. She wanted to hang out with her, but she knew that she was already training for the Hunger Games preliminary fights, and that most of the people from the capital would be in District 1 to watch the huge event. In order to volunteer for the Hunger Games, the trainees decided to fight each other for the right to volunteer. It had become a great spectacle in District 1. Even those from Districts 2 and 3 sometimes came to watch.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man they say murdered 3? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree.